I have a gift for all you fine lads and lasses over in the UK, and you'll see what it is by the end of this video. Just a little something I've been working on these last few days, calling forth my dark druidic powers of meme magic. I'm sure many of you will enjoy it. It's quite spicy if I do say so myself. Anyways, I was watching this video the other day, in which Sargon was talking about a splinter faction within UK politics called the Independent Group, abbreviated simply to TIG, and his analysis of the name through the lens of persuasion. I have to say, Sargon's recent adoption of the persuasion filter and his ability to weaponize pathos brings a smile to my face, since Tim Pool, Bunty King, myself, and others likely played a pivotal role in that transition when he came to New York. Good on you, mate. Keep it up. I'm really proud of you. Anyways, in his analysis, Sargon noted how TIG recently rebranded itself as Change UK, which he then proceeded to point out is the absolute worst name they could have chosen, as it abbreviates to cuck. I was dying laughing at the sheer irony of this. It was just too perfect, and is further proof that we are, in fact, living in a simulation. Truly, this is the best timeline, and little moments of joy like this make all the other shit in life rather bearable. Towards the end of the video, Sargon had solicited his fans to try and come up with an equally fitting name to rebrand UKIP into C.H.A.Ds as a countermeasure. For those not familiar with either of those terms, cucks are basically pathetic weaklings who sell themselves out and wind up with nothing, always wanting, whereas Chads are more dominant alphas who win all the things, all of them. There's also a more specific reference involving sex, but I think you get the idea. Being an author and a child of the internet who loves memes and shitposting as much as the next person, I thought I'd put my writing skills to the test and give it a shot. While I'm sure there are plenty of things I could have come up with just for fun, such as the completely hilarious awesome debauchery party, or the chiseled hard abs of domination party, or the coming hard in the asses of dipshits party. Oh yeah, I have a fairly dirty mind when the occasion calls for it. Must be all the time spent playing Cards Against Humanity. Anyways, while anything along those lines would certainly have been good for a few laughs, I thought I'd go for something a bit more serious instead. Something more subtle and meaningful that stood a chance of actually being accepted by a wider audience than just a bunch of shitlords and shitladies in Sargon's Discord, or even my own Discord. So, after much deliberation, this is what I've settled on. At the moment, many in Britain are deeply concerned about what's been going on in their country and in Europe as well. They see increased sentiment towards regressivism and Sharia law, creeping authoritarianism and Islamofascism, political correctness and identity politics taking hold and strangling the public with fines or even jail time for offensive speech, while rapists and terrorists are allowed to wander free. In some places, innocent people can't even own knives or potato peelers without a visit from the police, let alone guns to protect themselves. There is no free speech or right to bear arms enshrined in no law the way it is here in America, and God help you if you believe in oppressive notions such as biology or the presumption of innocence. In modern Britain, there are people of a particular political persuasion who get arrested or even barred from the country for simply reporting the news, or holding views that the establishment considers wrongthink. They're forced to pay for a license to an idiot box that spews out Marxist garbage from the media political complex, which tells them daily how horrible and worthless they all are, how much their country sucks, how it's full of racists, sexists, and just general bigots of every stripe, and that they should feel horrible about it. All in all, the people of Britain feel like a war is being waged on their culture. Granted, British culture isn't perfect by any means, but it has many fine qualities, and you'd be hard-pressed to find anywhere better than we have it in the West. Hand in hand with that is Britain's long and rich history. I know Sargon's a student of history, as are many of you, I'm sure. Problem is, if you put history in the name, you're just setting yourself up for attack, as people will inevitably cherry-pick only the bad parts of English history, which, let's be honest, there are some darker moments therein, slavery, colonialism, tyranny. And as an American, I could probably add a few more to that list, but I won't, as they are all in the past, and you have presumably learned to evolve and grow to be better than that. There are also some really great things about British history, though. Fighting Nazis, ending slavery, developing a system of common law where people are treated as equals regardless of identity. I won't belabor the point here. Suffice to say, these are all things worth preserving, when others would see them erased and rewritten into something far darker. They would throw the baby out with the bathwater, and make you feel guilty for having pride in the accomplishments of Western civilization. They would rob you of such worthwhile legacy which you have inherited. They would seek to destroy your cultural heritage. As an American, as a libertarian nationalist, and as a student of legal history, I understand the value of sovereignty. I won't bore you with a lecture on the difference between nationalism versus federalism, but suffice to say, there are those in the UK and Europe who wish to undermine the national sovereignty of Great Britain, subjecting you to the will of foreign bureaucracy made up of globalists and authoritarians who frankly don't give a shit about you or your country. To them, you are nothing but objects to be used for their own political and fiscal gain. I can certainly understand why the fat cats in Brussels would want to enslave you to an overarching fascistic superstate, but I can't understand why so many of your fellow Brits would want this for themselves and their families as well. While I'm all for secession, and even supported the right of Scottish independence, and while one of you will have to explain to me someday why Northern Ireland hasn't split off to rejoin the mainland if it's causing so many problems with the IRA, for right now, though, you would think all the member states of the UK ought to come together under one banner and be aligned in common cause, insofar as their departure from the European Union is concerned. This desire to abdicate your own power is simply baffling to me, but I mean, hey, at least it's not my country. Still, I can sympathize with you guys, since we went through something similar. What UKIP ultimately stands for is preservation of your own autonomy, your right as British citizens to self-determination within your own land, to protect all of Great Britain as a single entity, and you can hash out the details amongst yourselves later once you've ensured your own independence from the EU once again. But for now, don't give in to the lies, the propaganda, and the fear-mongering peddled by the Europhiles. Coming up with a word that encapsulates this idea was the hardest. I'd originally thought to use Anglican or Anglo, but that seems to refer mostly to just England, leaving out the other member states. Persuasion-wise, that's not great, as it makes the Irish, Welsh, and Scottish feel excluded. Instead, I think it might be better, and perhaps even more symbolic, to use the ancient name for the totality of the UK Isles, Albion. This is much more inclusive, and I think it ties in nicely with the theme so far as well, of remembering your shared history. The term has an almost mythical air about it, and perhaps you think of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table or something along those lines. True champions of moral virtue and liberty. As I said before, there are those who choose to see only the negative side of UK culture, to view its people as nothing more than violent, oppressive bullies who go around attacking others. In fairness, there is at least some grain of truth to that, if the actions of your leaders are anything to go by, which is how your critics are able to get away with making such claims. But that argument is not particularly sophisticated. It lacks nuance and fails to see the great good that exists there as well, and how Britain has been a world leader in advancing human rights. I know that Sargon has shifted more towards conservative libertarianism since I first started following him. If you were to ask him today, he'd probably be in favor of things like the non-aggression principle, non-intervention in people's lives or in the affairs of foreign nations, the right to self-defense, and equality under the law for everyone, regardless of identity. I've no doubt he will try and lead his people in that direction as best he can. As its name suggests, UKIP was founded on the premise of independence for the UK, apart from the European superstate, to protect its sovereignty and its borders, to preserve its culture and its heritage for native British people above all others, and also for their well-behaved guests. UKIP needs to be more than just about Brexit, though, or else it will stall out over time. Thus, as its mandate evolves, so must its brand and its name, to something more befitting what it actually is, a defender of quintessential Britain, her people, and her values. So, that's my idea for a new name, the Cultural Heritage of Albion Defence Party, or the C.H.A.D Party for short. We'll see what people think. If nothing else, it could at least be a starting point to build on, and maybe give you an idea that's actually put into proper use. Much like the phrase, "Make America Great Again," C.H.A.D has the flexibility for all Brits to infuse it with their own unique meaning that's personal to them, whatever your interpretation of British culture and British identity is. Your own vision for it might be unique, but you share a common understanding that it's something profoundly positive to rally around, that you won't let up or relinquish, but instead will fight and win and get all the things, all of them, for yourselves and your progeny. As we're entering the age of technology, with whole generations growing up accustomed to the internet and social media, I do think it's both hilarious and appropriate that meme culture seeps into the wider mainstream offline world of normies. If that doesn't happen, then at least this can continue to be our little inside joke. Stay strong, fellow Chads. And remember, it doesn't matter who you are, so long as your memes are dank.